Going to test out the microphone before we begin, if you all can hear me. Just a reminder, we'll be beginning at 1:35 for those of you who might be waiting with me. Can you all hear me okay? Anybody that's might be watching before we begin? Okay, good. Because I have a Chromebook up to the side and I have earbuds in and I'm like, I cannot hear myself. So I'm glad that you all can hear me. And yeah, just wanting to do a little test. Awesome. I'm happy that you all are here. Pretty excited to be a part of this today. There's been some really good sessions so far. Oh, Jennifer, that makes me so happy. Screencastify is definitely one of my passions. I joke around with them on Twitter. I'm like, Screencastify, you all should really start paying me because I talk about you all the time. And they offered to give me a sticker. So I was like, okay, I'll take what I can get. Hi, Miss Hill. I'm so happy you're here. This is exciting. I'm so excited. We'll be beginning in about 8 minutes, giving everybody a chance to hop on. Hello, everyone who just hopped on. If you would like to get a copy of the slide deck that I have for this presentation, if you go to this tiny URL here, you can totally grab you a copy of it, or it takes you to my site and you can just make a copy that way. Feel free to do that. And if you would like to share any of this information with the people that you work with, maybe you're an administrator or another teacher and you want to share it, feel free to make a copy. You can erase my name off of all of it and you take the credit because a lot of this stuff, a lot of these things I have gathered from my PLN on Twitter and podcasts. So really, this is just something that we've compiled together from the learning network that is Kentucky Go Digital and everything. So feel free. Hello, everyone who just logged in. I'm so happy to have you here. We'll be beginning in just a little bit. If you have any questions before we get started, feel free to pop them over to the chat. Scott, I totally agree. At Kisty, the Galt House, I was running all over the place. I mean, I had so much fun getting to meet many people face to face, but I feel that digital conferences like this really give people a chance to actually sit down and sink the content in instead of worrying about where they're going next. So it makes it a lot easier. Jennifer, Screencastify is something that's pretty similar to Flipgrid, and we're going to talk about how we can use those together, but Flipgrid allows the students to record their face, and you get little bitty snippets of their conversation. And I love Flipgrid. I'm a Flipgrid ambassador, so Flipgrid is my jam. Screencastify will let you do kind of like what I'm doing right now on this screen, and I'm screencasting it to you all using Hangouts. Your students will be able to use Screencastify to do something similar with their presentations and their creations and whatever it is that you want them to share. So we'll talk a little bit about that in the presentation. Oh, Megan, I am so glad. Have you flipped your classroom? And for those of you that just logged on, if you want to grab you a copy of the slide deck, feel free to go to this tiny URL and you can totally grab a copy of that. Feel free to use it and share it with whomever you wish. I am totally one of the most unselfish people when it comes to stuff like this. I mean, if we were talking pizza, I'm pretty selfish with pizza. But with this stuff, feel free to use it. Share it on. The more we share, the more that we help the kids. Oh, Megan, that what are you middle school and high school? Or middle school or high school? And what district are you with? For those of you that just hopped on, we're going to get started at 1:35. If you want to grab a copy of the slide deck, you can go ahead, get on tinyurl.com/Stella Pollard 2. It'll take you to my site, but you can see it there. And if you click the little box in the top right-hand corner, you can make a copy of it that way. I'm super excited to share this information with you all. It pumps me up. It makes me excited. Especially seeing all these little icons up here of all these cute little animals. How cute is that? Oh, Jennifer, girl, flipping my classroom kind of terrified me a little bit. And I don't have a completely flipped classroom, but I've done a lot of blended, and I love it. I love what the students can create with that. I'm excited. I wish that I could play music, but they told me that YouTube had strict copyright violations, and I don't want to get the channel shut down. So they even put yikes whenever they were talking about that. So I could sing, but then I think we would scare some people away. Hi, for those of you that just joined in, welcome aboard. We're fixing to get started in 3 minutes. Oh, Laura, you're going to love Screencastify. It's perfect for the littles because they can get it out and they can apply what they've made, but they don't have to worry about all their spelling and they can use their voice. And I think that little kids are seriously the cutest Screencastifiers ever. So I hope that you see some stuff in here that's really, really helpful for you in your school. Hi.
Not been eating in the library, have you?
Mm-mm.
How's your summer going so far?
I'm good. I'm doing a virtual conference right now. You want on the screen? I'll put you on here. Show off your face. All right. We got about 2 minutes before we get started here. 2 minutes for those of you that just joined in. If you go to tinyurl.com/Stella Pollard 2, you can grab a copy of this slide deck and make it yours. You can share it with your fellow teachers or your administration, whoever you'd like to share it with. Totally not selfish with that. Or you can just go back and rewatch the video. I mean, that's always an option. I love virtual conferences for that. So handy. 1 minute. I'm so excited. I love that we have some conversation going on over here to begin with. That is amazing. And the beginning of the presentation, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Screencastify altogether, I'm going to have a little bit of a snippet on what Screencastify is and how you can get it. So those of you who are veteran users of Screencastify, please stick that part out with me so we can get everybody on the same page. And last call before we hop in. Hey, Kim. Oh, hi. I'm so happy you're here. Last call before we get started. Here is my presentation, my slide deck. You go to tinyurl.com/Stella Pollard 2, and it will take you to the slide deck, but you don't have to go there if you don't want. All right, so it is officially 1:35, and I will stop rambling now and get started with this presentation. So we are here to learn how students can empower their voice inside of your classroom using Screencastify, because if you have students plus Screencastify, you know what you get? You get magic, and it's awesome. You're going to see their faces light up. You're going to see them be a little nervous at first, but you're going to be like, I'm teaching you a life skill, and it's magical. Okay, so a little bit about me before we get started. My name is Stella Pollard. I teach 7th grade math and science in Franklin County at Bonneret Middle School. And guys, this is the first time I've taught math in a few years. So I am so excited that I get to teach both, kind of the beginning of the STEAM and the end of the STEAM there, like all together. And I'm pretty excited to have all of that. So I'm a Google certified educator levels 1 and 2. I'm also a Google certified trainer, and I present with EdTech team, and I'm an ambassador of Flipgrid and Classcraft. So if you ever have any questions about those, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. We'll talk about that later. All right, so let's get started. What are we going to be doing when we're in this presentation? We're going to be learning how to harness the magical ways of Screencastify and learn about all of its beautifulness. So we're going to learn about what Screencastify actually is, how in the world we get it, how do students use it, and why do we want students to use it? There is a big deal that goes on as to why we want students to use Screencastify. So we'll talk about that. All right, so what exactly is Screencastify? Number one, it's a Google Chrome extension. And if you are unfamiliar with a Google Chrome extension, if you look up here on my toolbar, directly beside of my search Omnibox thingy here, you're going to see all of these little icons. Those are called extensions. So this one is actually Screencastify, and I'll show you how to get that in just a second. And Screencastify, with it, becomes the ability to record what's on your screen, kind of like what we're doing right now with this whole Google Hangouts. And it makes me really excited because the students can actually show their work in many different ways. So ability to record what's on the screen, but also an ability just to have a web camera. So it will record the student's face if that's all you want. Okay, for me, I don't hardly use that very much, but I mean, we're adults. Kids like that. We typically do not. One of the major things that makes me so excited about Screencastify, there's 2 versions. Of course, they have a premium for you to pay for it, but let's start off with the Lite. The Lite version gives you up to 50 videos per month. 50 videos per month. Each of those videos can be 10 minutes long for absolutely no cost to you. The only thing, it's going to have a little bitty, teeny tiny watermark on it that you'll see later when we see some student examples that says Screencastify. I don't care if my students' work has that or not. That's okay with me. So basically for students, it's absolutely free. The premium account is $24 a year. I mean, I drink that at least probably in a week at Starbucks sometimes, depending upon what time of the school year it is. But I went ahead and I purchased the $24 account because I use it a lot, and I'm going to tell you some ways that I use it in just a little bit. But it also gives you the chance to crop and trim your videos and to edit those and to download them. So totally worth it for me. But if you don't want to pay for it, you do not have to. All right. Any questions so far before we move into how we get Screencastify? Shout out to math and science. Yes, girl. Yes, yes. Okay. So how in the world do we get this magical being called Screencastify? If you are in the slide deck, if you click the little blue hyperlink, it's going to take you to the Google Chrome store where you can download it. But if you are not in the slide deck, it's no big deal. You can open up a new tab and you can go to the Chrome Web Store. So I usually just Google Chrome Web Store so I can find it easy. And it's typically that first one that pops up. So I really love this. There's all kinds of magical things in here that I could get lost into for hours, but let's just stick to our task. Screencastify. If I could spell it, that would be great. All right. So once you find that, it's going to take you, and this very first one, you're going to click Add to Chrome, and you will immediately see the little extension pop up there once you have downloaded it. And that first time that you download it, you're going to have to set up an account with your Google. And the reason why you want to connect that to your Google account is because your videos that you make are going to save directly to your Google Drive, but also to YouTube if you select that. I always make mine go to Google Drive, and I tell my students to do the same just because I feel like that it's handier. But yeah, so it'll just walk you through that, and we'll talk about the settings that it has in just a second. So I had a question here from Laura, and Laura said, can you use this with iPads? And there is a way that you can use it with iPads, I believe, because I was playing around with it last week at a conference with another participant, and we were trying to figure it out. I think that you have to be in your Google Chrome browser, and if anybody knows the exact answer to this, feel free to hop in over here to the chat and help me answer that, because I'm always grateful for help. But after she opened up the Google Chrome, I think that she was able to see her extensions up there at the top and to use it. I could be wrong, but we were kind of doing multitasks. Laura, if you are on Twitter, send me a DM and I will get in touch with Screencastify and we will ask them how to make that happen. Okay, so once you have it downloaded and it shows up here and you've signed into your account and you click on it, it's going to open up and you'll see that mine says premium here. That's just because I paid that $24. But all of you should have the 3 options. You have the browser tab, which means that all of this stuff from up here and all of your things down here in your dock are going to be hidden, and you're only going to see what is open in that tab. You can make sure your microphone's turned on. That's pretty important. But you can also embed a little web camera in the corner to where it records your face as it records your screen also. So you have like a little multitasking going on. You can have it to where it records your desktop. So it records every single thing. If you plan on going in between 2 or 3 or multi-tabs, I would highly recommend that. I usually just keep mine on desktop just because I feel that it's the most efficient. And then you also have the webcam only. And just clicking on that gives me anxiety to have it on my face the whole time. But you would make sure that you turn your microphone on and it would record your face. So it's very simple to use. And this button right here will take you to your recordings, but they also go directly to your Google Drive. So it's just so easy. And I love that it's on the Chromebooks and it makes student creation nice. I love it. And if anybody has any questions about that, feel free to shoot them over and we'll talk about it. But now let's get into the actual meat of this presentation. And I'm so excited. So I have some ways here that we can use student creation to really thrive inside of our classroom. The first one, and I'm a science person and I've taught science for years. I'm a math person too, but I'm sorry that a lot of these examples are going to be science related. That's just the way that my brain was working when I made it. So Ready, Set, Animation is the first one that I'll talk to you all about. And you can make flip books using Google Slides. And if you're not familiar with Google Slides, DM me on Twitter or email me and we'll hook you up with some resources for that. But whenever you're on Google Slides, you're making all of these little pages over here to the side. So when you go through them really fast, it looks like a flip book and it's so cool. So let me go into present mode here and I'll show you an example of one of those. There's a little joke at the beginning. Ha. And then you can see that it's going through all of the different steps of mitosis. So you can do that with whatever content that you're teaching. You could also act out a historical event. So let's say that you made one slide and you had all of these characters on there from World War II or something. You would just have to move those characters a little bit and you would be able to tell a story. So you just duplicate the slide by right-clicking and pressing duplicate slide, and then just moving those little characters around just a little bit at a time. Super easy to do, makes it super fun and engaging for the kids. You can act out a skit similar in the same way that we talked about with historical events, model cell divisions, or a cycle like the water cycle, the rock cycle. Super easy to make those little representations. Or you can work out a mathematical equation or any type of math problem really where the students have the problem and then they slowly go through it and explain how they worked it out. So pretty interesting and just making something that's a little bit mundane, a little bit more fun for the students as they create. So the second way that we'll talk about, and if I go fast, please slow me down. I get really excited. The second way that we'll talk about is rethinking presentations. If we were in a classroom right now, I'd say raise your hand if you ever had your students do a Google Slides presentation or something similar, and all of us probably would raise our hand because we really enjoy that and the students like the creativity of it. But then it sounds like such a great idea until you get to the day where it's like, okay, we're going to present these. And you realize that it's going to take 3 class periods to present all of your students' work. Ugh. And then by the end, you're done. The students are done. They don't want to pay attention anymore. So frustrating. But with Screencastify, the students can record their work, kind of like what they would do exactly the same way in the class. But you would post all of those links to the videos on your Google Classroom stream or onto a Padlet, and the students can leave feedback and comments for each other, or you could have a graphic organizer and have them reflect about each specific video. So if you were doing body systems or something, you could give each student or each group a body system. They go out and explore it, make a presentation, and they watch all the other presentations, and they're going to get all of the information and not have to sit through 3 whole days of presentations. So I think that's really good. And if you ever get a chance, feel free to check out Kennedy and Aubrey's awesome presentation video that I have here. I've also included, this one specifically because that's the watermark that we talked about that Screencastify Lite version will have. So that's it. Like that's the only thing. And I mean, like I said, the students don't even know that it's there. So cool. All right. So I don't see any questions, so I'm going to keep going forward. Please tell me if I go too fast. I know it's a lot, but at least we have the presentations and videos to go back and watch. So I know that for me, my average class sizes next year is probably going to be 34 students per class. that makes me super excited, but also super nervous. Super excited because that's more kids that I get to connect with, but super nervous as in, how am I going to reach all of those students in one class period? So you might have a struggling student, a kid who really wants to learn your content, but how can we reach them if they failed the test and they can't seem to learn it from us and we feel like a failure, but then the other half of the class get it? You could have the other half of the class who get it make videos to help your struggling learners. Sometimes they get frustrated and then they just shut down. It's not the fact that they don't like us. It's the fact that they've already given up on learning it from our voice. But why not enrich the kids who have met the standards and given them a chance to help the students who need that reteaching moment? So I really, and somebody said yikes. I think that was to my classroom sizes. I totally understand. I'm excited though. Let's say that you have, I think there's a song right now that's out and it talks about the earth being flat, and you teach middle school. This is totally hypothetical. And you have a lot of students who think that the earth is flat. Now, you could go through and you could have a whole class period on why the earth isn't flat and that they learned about that in 6th grade. Or you can make a little Screencastify video and slap that up on your Google wall and have them rethink their misconceptions and have discussions about it. It's so crazy. Billy is smiling. I think he must know what I'm talking about. All right, I have a confession. My first year teaching was 2014, 2015, and I heard this quote. I can't remember who said it, so it's not from me. But anyway, one of you might know. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. So my first year teaching, I went to the parent-teacher store. I saw a poster that said that, and I was like, this kind of offends me a little bit because I learned from hearing and seeing, and my doing was worksheets. And I turned out just fine. So why would I want to change that? But really, after I got some experience, that second year of teaching, I started letting go of the rein a little bit. And I was like, man, I was working so much harder last year. Why am I doing this to myself, standing for hours at the copier, making packets after packets, and the students aren't really getting it, but they're able to answer a problem on a worksheet, but it's not really sinking in? So why do we do that to our kids? With Screencastify, we can let the students go out, give them topics so they're not just free-ranging because that's scary, but we want them to go out because, sorry.
Back in the library. Thank you.
That was an announcement for me. Anyways, so I'm at school in the summer because I'm a nerd. Anyways, those who do the teaching are the ones that do the learning. We know that. So they can go research and Screencastify the findings. One of my favorite ways to do this is have like a little paper bag and have question stems in there for whatever it is that we're learning. And the students each get a stem and they go out and they try to find their answers. They're going to have 15 minutes to do that. And then they come back and they make a Screencastify on what they found. And you can give them more or less time. And it kind of just gets the conversation going. It really just is better than writing down all of the definitions on a graphic organizer and then that's it. That's all that they're doing with them. This lets them apply it. All right. So, newsflash. Students do not watch the news. Is that a newsflash for anybody? Probably not. My 3-year-old says, news, yuck. She don't like it. So, I know that my middle schoolers do not either. However, they love being reporters. Isn't that so ironic? So with Screencastify, what I do, I'll go to the Dollar Tree because I'm poor, and I buy like just a navy blue tablecloth, and I hang it up on the wall, and I put a little table in front of it, and then I have a red tablecloth on the table, and the students are officially reporters, and it makes them feel so professional as they sit straight in their chairs behind their tables. And they talk about breakthroughs in science, like maybe there's a new cure for cancer and they're studying about that. Or maybe there was a history book moment that they want to make relevant now. So maybe they were learning about the Civil War and they wanted to talk about it like it was a modern day thing. They could totally do that and make it a newscast mockery, if you will. And they could talk about real life ratios. They could talk about whatever is historically happening within their community or within the world, or they could go back and pull anything from archives and like have them just completely make it to where it looks like it would be on the local news channel. And I don't know why they enjoy that so much, but they do. So you're not only working on reaching your content standards, the students are writing, but they're also working on a life skill of talking out loud and really just maybe seeing that their future could hold for them a chance to be a news reporter. So maybe you're helping them find what their future holds inside of it. One of my favorite things to do as a child was read the Magic School Bus books with Miss Frizzle. You all remember her? Yes, she was amazing. And I strive to be like her because, I mean, who doesn't want to be Miss Frizzle? And Screencastify plus Google Earth or Google Tour Builder or My Maps makes that possible. So instead of reading what's on the slide, because you all can totally do that on your own time, I want to show you what Google Maps looks like. So this is Google Maps, and you can make your own just by looking up places and then adding layers and going to different places. So I grew up in Buckhorn, well, really Perry County, but I went to school at Buckhorn, and it's a state park. But did you know that there's a second one? So the students could go, they could click on this little peg, and they can go there. I don't know where my little peg man is. Oh. Anyways, view in Google Maps. Duh. So they go there and they're able to see what it is like. What's it like to be there? And they can talk about the animals that are there, the organisms that live there, and they can make real life connections. But then they could go and they could compare it to the other Buckhorn Lake Park, or maybe not Lake, but the other Buckhorn Park, and see how it is different and talk about the similarities between the two, but also how different that they could be. We have students inside of our classroom who have never been outside of the county that we teach at. Is that not heartbreaking? Like, that is so sad. But with Google Maps and Google Earth and all of the things that Google has to offer, we can let them go and make connections to our content. You could talk about biomes and weather and climate and revisit the settings of the books. You could use storytelling skills by just like dropping a peg man off into a random location and say, okay, tell me a story based off of what you see. That's all you can tell me. If it's a lake, tell me a story about a lake. And it's really interesting to see what they can come up with. Allison says, my kindergarten teachers use Google Earth all of the time to build context. I love it. Google Earth is probably one of the most magical things that I've ever seen. I love it. If you've never tried it, I hyperlink this to where it can take you to Google Earth and you can play around with it and let me know if you have any questions about that. Sometimes I almost get off topic, but then I catch myself. Okay. I really enjoy feedback, but sometimes I don't get enough time to give feedback to every student as quickly as I know as how it should be. I should be able to give them feedback immediately after they send something in, but honestly, if it's not multiple choice, it's so difficult to do that. So one way that you can do it, the students open their peers' work, and then they screencast suggestions. So they'll just click on their little screencast up here at the top. They'll record their screen and they'll go through the slide deck or the Google Doc or whatever it is that you're working on or the students are working on, and they can leave feedback that way. Then they leave the link to the screencast in the comments, and the original student can go back and listen to that and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I do need to do that. This can also be teacher to student feedback. I've done this with lab reports and essays inside of my science classroom, and it saves me so much time because I talk pretty fast. I think that we've probably caught on to that by now. I apologize. But anyway, I talk faster, much faster than I write and type. So it makes the grading process go so much quicker for me. All right, practice makes perfect. I know that there's probably some language arts teachers in here or social studies who have their students have to do a lot of speeches in front of their classmates. And it's pretty nerve-wracking for the student because the only time that they actually do that in front of the whole class is the day that their speech is given. And that's just the way that we have to do it. We don't have enough time to go through and give every student 2 and 3 chances, especially if we have 34 students in a class. I totally understand that. And the students understand that too. But one thing that we can do to make that easier is to have the students practice their speeches and proofread their work aloud. So it's perfect for editing. If they are listening to themselves, which is pretty hard to do, I totally understand that. But if they're listening to themselves, they could say, oh, that part really doesn't make sense. And it just gives them a chance to edit in a different type of way. And it helps them with the life skill of talking in front of an audience because they can share that video with whoever, their parents, the teachers, friends, etc. And it just gives them a different way to do that. I adore this website called Quizlet.com, because it has flashcards. I love it. However, sometimes the students just get on there and they play the games. And they want to see how fast they can click. And it gets frustrating because I'm like, you're so great at memorizing the pictures of the words, but could you tell me the actual definition? And they're like, oh, no. But the students could open up one of these lovely Google Slides presentations. They type out all of the vocabulary words and they record themselves saying the words, the definitions, maybe applying them to a different sentence. But then they can download that video because it saves directly into their Google Drive and they can listen to it on the go. So this is a great pre-assessment tool, but it's also going to be great for those students who may not be, they might not have the national language at home being English. Maybe they speak Spanish at home or Japanese or any other type of language other than English. It's probably pretty hard for them to read it as well. So you can have somebody else give them virtual flashcards of them reading it, maybe in their national language and in English, and it's going to help them be able to concretely understand what it is that they're learning. All right, let's see over here. Allison says, wow, you make me happy. Melody, idea of letting students practice and edit in an innovative way. Thank you. And Candace says, I'm still just so excited that Screencast is an extension. I have used the Screencast before, but not as an extension. This is awesome. I'm so glad that you see how awesome it is, Candace. And if you ever have any questions, please feel free to shoot them out to me in any way that you want. Okay, so this is one of the last ones that I have for student-driven ones, and it's so fun. And I just learned about it about 3 weeks ago from, I think it was on the Google Teacher Tribe podcast. Shout out Casey Bell and Matt Mueller. So anyways, yeah, video dubbing. And you may be familiar with video dubbing. You might not be, because I wasn't. But you can have your students play a video with the volume muted and record their own narration. Now, this one gets a little bit tricky because you want to make sure that you're doing your copyright violations. You know, you don't want to break copyright and you want to teach your students good skills. So one way that I've thought about doing this would be to have the students make their own videos, but then have other students video dub over top of them. So what it is actually you play a video on YouTube or whatever it is that you're showing your video on. Make sure the video is muted so you're not hearing sound. but the students do a screencast over top of that video. And this want to try it, I would totally click on it, but it's going to take us to a little clip of the Titanic, and I don't want to get my YouTube channel shut down. So we're going to act like I'm clicking on it, and you talk over top of the characters, whatever their lips look like they're saying, you can talk about your content. So you can talk about the rock cycle or whatever. And I hope that you kind of get that, but I'll make a video of an example of this, and I'll share it out at the Kentucky Go Digital hashtag, so you all have an example to go with. I just don't want to get shut down. That would be horrible. Like these little fire flames, that would be my presentation, going up in smoke. Okay, so I've kind of crammed a lot of information into a short little period, but here are some ways that teacher-driven Screencastifys can help bring the ability to give students one-on-one attention and to empower them. And so these are going to be ideas for the teacher. So before I move forward for the next, I think there's 3 more. Does anybody have any questions for me to answer about the student part of Screencastify? Because I would love to help in any way. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and go forward. If any questions pop up, I will answer them, I promise. So this past weekend, like yesterday, maybe the day before, Screencastify posted a blog, and it was talking about ways that teachers have tweeted that they use Screencastify. So I saw some of those that I didn't talk about yet. I was like, oh, I really want to add those to my presentation. Those are such great ideas. So I used a little snippet from their blog, and if you click on the pictures, it will take you to their blog. All right, so step number 1, pre-record your lessons for new content and flip your classroom. This will give you more time for one-on-one feedback with kids. You can see who has it and who doesn't. If you don't feel comfortable giving your students a video to watch at home, because you know that not all students have internet, or you know that some students don't have a device at home, let them watch the videos in class and then have them write their questions down. What better way to have new content than not only with a pre-recorded lesson, but to also have you there. So we typically call that flipping the classroom, but you do not have to completely have it outside of your room. And having a sub is so scary, not because you know that the subs aren't good, because some of them are and some of them aren't, we know that, but you can have the best sub in the world and you know that everything's not going to be exactly the way that you want it to be. The students are going to have different conceptions on how they think that the lesson should be done. But what if you leave your sub plans by video? So you can leave a video for the sub saying, you know, this is exactly what I want done. These are the students that shouldn't sit together, et cetera, et cetera. But you can also make a video for your kids as well, so they know exactly the way that you want to do it. Because sometimes when you type a letter to them, they're like, oh, well, she didn't mean that. Or maybe this wasn't that big of a deal. But you can use your voice to emphasize exactly what it is that you want them to do. And then foreign language or ESL learners, you could have the students practice their phrases in the language that they're learning. So if you're a Spanish teacher or you know a Spanish teacher, the students could talk in Spanish and then say it in English, or they could have a conversation between 2 students in whatever language it is that they're practicing. And then they can go back and they can listen and practice those phrases directly from their Google Drive. Maybe you're an English teacher and you have a certain text that you want the students to be able to memorize and present in front of the class so they can practice using Screencastify, and it makes it really easy for them. All right, and this is my very last one. A lot of districts inside of Kentucky are going one-to-one with Chromebooks, and I think that's magical. I just love what it offers for our students. But we get students that transfer into our schools halfway through the school year, or we get parent emails saying, I don't know how to help my student with their homework because I don't know how to work the Chromebook or whatever pops up. You can have students be leaders by making videos to help new students, parents, and even some staff members learn how to use their Chromebooks. And that gives the students a leadership role, but it also gives the parents and the other staff members that support that they need. And that's pretty much it. That's all that I have so far. I keep adding to this like every day whenever I think of something new. But if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them over to the chat and I will be glad to answer them. And I'm going to pop up how you can connect with me. I'm on Twitter. I tweet a lot. So those of you that already follow me, I'm sorry that I flood your stream sometimes because I love it. If you're not on Twitter, I highly recommend it. I didn't start using Twitter for professional reasons until last summer. And it's been one of the most, I don't even know. It's just completely changed everything. I used to feel kind of alone. I mean, I had the teachers inside of my school and that was great. But now I have a world full of teachers that I can connect with. If you're not on Twitter and you don't ever plan on being on Twitter, here is my personal email address. It's stellarpollard@gmail.com. And I think it's kind of funny that my parents named me Stella Ruth Pollard or niece, not Pollard. I'm married. But anyway, whenever I type it like this, it looks like it says Stellar. So that's funny. And then this link is a link to all of my presentations and resources that you can feel free to get on and explore. All right. Whew. So I have some questions over here. Jennifer says video dubbing is great for those kids still struggling to visually present themselves as they have a voice, literally. Yeah, so it won't show their face, but it shows how creative that they can be and it helps empower their voice. Megan says students will watch a video in class of me going over math examples much better than when we go over it in person. Megan, I so agree with that because you keep giving the same examples over and over again and half of the class get it. So they're sitting there bored waiting because they've already solved it out and the other half is really struggling. So the videos for math will definitely help them be able to concrete their ideas and how to solve the problems. And it does work with a document camera, it being Screencastify, works with a document camera, so you can write it down on paper using the webcam and make a video that way if you don't feel comfortable using the online tools on the screen. Tara says, when I first started using Screencastify, I accidentally clicked the webcam option and it only showed my face. My 7th grade class thought it was so hilarious. I've been there with you, girl. It was kind of like a moment where my students see that I'm not perfect, and we all laughed about it, even though inside I was dying from just being so embarrassed. It was funny. Jess, hi, how are you? Jess says, when students create using the tools we give them, the learning is more real than we can imagine, especially when those creations can help or grow your school. And Jeff, that is so true. And I think that a lot of students in STLP probably utilize tools like Screencastify to get their ideas across. So those are really good questions and inputs from you all. I hope that you have found some resources and ideas that you can use inside of your classroom next school year. But if you ever need anything with Screencastify or anything Google related, if I don't know the answer, I can try to find out or we can work through it together, and I would be so glad to help in any way possible. So we have about 4 minutes until my time slot is up. Actually, make that 3 minutes until my time slot is up. And if you all want to go ahead and start moseying to your next session, you can. But I don't mind to sit around here just to make sure that you all feel confident or no other questions come up. I will be glad for that. Let's see. I was going to say, oh, there we go. I'll even put it on my face for you all so you can see who I am if you want. Even though there was a big picture of myself on the screen for that. Well, thank you. Thank you all. I appreciate that. It's been an honor to present with this awesome team. And thank you all for having me and coming and chilling with me as we learn about Screencastify and some ways that we can use it. Thank you. And if you all have any math resources, feel free to send those my way, because I'm kind of geeking out this summer. That's what I'm focusing on the most, is really getting brushed up on the math standards and making sure that I'm not leading my students astray. I have a good team to work with. Oh, Heather, I love you too. Oh, thank you. You're a purple cow for sure. Thank you for the shirt, though, Melody. Sorry. Thank you for these awesome shirts. And I guess if there's no more questions, I'll go ahead and log off. Thank you, Jennifer. That means a lot. You're awesome. If there's no more questions, I'll go ahead and log off. And that way you all can go ahead and go to your next session. It's been an honor. Thank you.